Clients had literally never been allowed to see this office before, and shortly I would understand why. I sat in silence for what seemed like an extremely long cab ride. It could have been only a few minutes, or it may have been the better part of an hour. I had no concept of time, and all of the streets looked eerily similar. I sat alone in the back of the taxi while Mindy took the front seat, directing the driver. Just yesterday, this young girl was a complete stranger. Today, she held my fate in her hands. I was expected to trust her to manage the most important transaction of my life, and she was clearly just a child herself. I also had to trust she was actually taking me to the office, and not to some place where I would conveniently disappear, never to be seen by my family again. After all, I was virtually alone in a very communist country where I didn't speak a word of the language and didn't know a single other person. I made a conscious decision not to allow my thoughts to travel in this direction. I just had to believe everything was going to be fine. I would call the agency once we arrived at the office, where they must have a working phone, and they would find a way around this snag. The calm and pleasant voice back in Virginia, who prepared me for this trip, would know someone at the embassy to call and clear everything up. We could return the following morning and get all the paperwork squared away. I could then use this incident as leverage for them to help me as quickly and efficiently as possible in the future. Yeah, right. The mood in the cab was tense. I was angry and scared. Mindy clearly was off her game and dealing in uncharted territory, as she told me several times. Clients were not allowed in the office. Even the driver seemed nervous, like we were headed to an area of Hanoi where an American woman should not be going. When the taxi finally came to a stop, the neighborhood did not look like it would house an office. We were on a quiet, rundown street that seemed mostly residential, but somewhat deserted. My thoughts returned to the subterranean tunnels left over from the Vietnam, or here, the American War. I had the feeling a little Jewish girl's body could easily have been irretrievably hidden. Well, I had no choice now but to have some trust in this girl, follow her, and keep my mouth shut. My body wanted to stay in the cab as Mindy exited, hand the hotel card from my pocket over to the driver, and get the heck out of this place. But instead, I forced myself to open the door and follow Mindy. We filed down the dim hallways of what appeared to be a very cheap and outdated hotel. It felt eerie and musty, like regular cleaning was not included in the room rate. Mindy unlocked a tattered door with an old-fashioned key. As we stepped inside the cramped room, I saw a very bare-bones, tiny hotel room, dingy with basic furniture stuffed into it that was very old and worn. The small desk, filled with 2 computers, a printer, and a fax machine, looked out of place. Mindy told me yet again how this was highly unusual. No other American family had ever been allowed to see the office before. I could tell she was extremely nervous, and I could understand why. My confidence I would ever actually see a baby was diminishing quickly. The air in the room felt stale and had a negative energy. It was dreary, depressing, and would be considered a slum back home. I tried to calm myself by investigating the room while I listened to Mindy's incomprehensible and frantic phone conversations that continued, one after another. This was clearly over her pay grade, and she was trying her best to hold herself together. I literally prayed that Julie would get there quickly. After looking around, I sat on the office chair positioned in front of the desk and wondered if I could use the laptop computer to check my email. I would ask Mindy if there was ever a pause between phone calls, but it seemed unlikely she would be taking a break anytime soon. Julie swooped into the room after we had been there for about 15 minutes. She also had a cell phone attached to her ear and finished her call before saying hello. She forced a smile as she asked me for details of my meeting at the embassy.